The rise of social media is arguably one of the most important advances in modern history. It has the power to influence music and art, to change and shape governments, and it's very important to businesses to connect sellers with buyers all over the world. But why is that? Because of the power of one-to-one relationships and the incredible reach now available from the one to the many. Through digital and social media, you have the ability to directly reach your customers and prospects in unprecedented ways, with greater reach and more specific targeting than ever before. And yet, those same customers and prospects wield a great deal of power themselves. They choose when and where they want to respond to your marketing messages. They also have the ability to be vocal with their opinions about your brand and your products. That's why social listening is crucial to your digital strategy. Social listening is how you track, analyze, and respond to conversations across the internet. By monitoring social media discussions about your industry, your company, and your products and customers, you can shape the direction of the conversation. It will help you get a leg up on your competition and inform both brand and business decisions. Done right, it will even help you save both time and money.
Social listening is the perfect opportunity to figure out what your audience really thinks about you, your industry, and your competitors. 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had agencies that were around just to do market research, and they would put all the people in a room and they would ask them all these questions. You don't have to do that now. You have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. You have all of these opportunities to figure out exactly what people are saying about your brand unfiltered. You know what they love about you, what they hate about you, what they wish you could improve, what they wish you could change, and you can see them actually talking to potential other customers for you. They could be getting you new business, or they could be losing new business for you.
You can do social listening with free tools such as the ones that you see here. There are also a variety of paid social listening tools available, such as HubSpot social media tools, which are available as part of HubSpot's paid offering. There are 8 key benefits to doing social listening. The first benefit is that it gives you the opportunity to measure the performance of your social media, web, and even to some extent your conversations and offline content strategy. You can measure the results from marketing and sales campaigns, including mentions, comments, shares, reshares, and the volume and sentiment of the conversation around your content. Did people love your last blog post, or did it ruffle feathers? Do videos resonate better than static images? Did your customers share content to their social channels from the last email you sent to your mailing list? Once you discover what types of content work best, you might consider how to use similar content in targeted ads. Social metrics should be a crucial part of evaluating your content strategy as a whole. Second, social listening helps you manage reputation. If that blog post did ruffle feathers and you suddenly have a tweet storm on your hands, understanding the full extent of the conversation is key. If you're aware of the conversation early on, you can respond in a timely manner and potentially turn the tide of the conversation. If your customers are complaining about your company or product, you can respond publicly about how you'll make it right. Third, social listening helps you identify your biggest fans and influencers. This is important because people trust word of mouth more than they trust brand conversations. In fact, according to Market Force, 81% of US online consumers' purchase decisions are influenced by their friends' social media posts versus 78% who are influenced by the posts of the brands they follow on social media. Once you've identified your superfans, thank and reward them for their loyalty and support. Engage with and involve them in conversations, content, and your campaigns. Leverage their word of mouth to increase the reach of your messages. Fourth, social listening can help you discover new product ideas or ways to enhance features on existing products. Listen to what your customers and prospects are talking about to discover their pain points, and make shifts to address them with better product features or services. You can identify some of the biggest detractors and invite them to meet with your product team to share their ideas. You can also look for gaps and weaknesses in your competition's products and up the ante with your own development schedule. One great example of a company who used social listening to develop a product and create a smart marketing campaign at the same time is Netflix. When they discovered through social listening that many of their customers that were binge watching shows were falling asleep, they realized they had an amazing opportunity. What did they do? They invented Netflix socks. Smart socks that detect when you've dozed off and send a signal to your TV, automatically pausing your show. Never again will you binge watch yourself to sleep, only to wake up 2 seasons later wondering what happened, or fall into the middle of a spoiler. Of course, these socks went viral, winning a Shorty Award, and best of all, endearing millions of people to their brand. I just mentioned the 5th benefit of social listening: watching the competition. Social listening helps you learn from monitoring your competitors, ranging from how their content performs with their audience to how happy their customers are and what the world at large is saying about them. Sixth, social listening can lead to new business opportunities. Monitoring can help you identify gaps in your current industry offerings. Are your customers and prospects asking for something that isn't yet provided? Is there an underutilized sector of your industry that your company might be able to service? You can also identify trends early on and shift direction to take advantage of those opportunities. The seventh way that social listening can make a difference for your business is by helping you find leads. For example, some companies look for unhappy customers of a competitor and reach out with an offer to help. If the company is responsive when other companies are not, then switching may often be an easy decision for the customer. The eighth and final way you can use social listening is to help you set strategic benchmarks for your future, including listening metrics in your strategy. Metrics like the volume of engagement, sentiment, shares of your content, mentions, and more will give you the baseline you need to set better social media and business goals for the quarters and years ahead. There are two modes of listening to think about: monitoring and engagement. Monitoring is the method of actively looking for mentions and conversations that pertain to your brand, your products, your hashtags, your employees, your competitors, and your customers. Engagement is the step you have to take to have conversations with individuals talking about your industry, brand, products, or services. If you're in the early stages of developing your digital promotion strategy, you may only need to be monitoring social media. But as your company grows, or in fact, to help directly drive that growth, you'll need to consider how you'll engage with your customers. In the ideal world, you'll monitor and engage your audience on all social channels. But when starting out, perhaps you might decide to only engage on Facebook or Twitter, depending on which network your buyer persona tends to frequent. Just make sure you're adequately directing your audience in all channels to the best way they can have a conversation with you, whether it's directing them to a specific social channel, a web page, or to an email address. You don't want to appear unavailable to an audience that's trying to reach you. There you have it. Social media listening is one of the best ways to get a jump on your competitors and to build loyalty with your customers. It really is one of the most important strategies any business can take to understand what the world thinks about its brand. Social media is a powerful tool for businesses, but it can feel overwhelming when you're just getting started. Unlike other communication channels, social media offers so many options and tools that some companies have successfully adopted a social-only marketing strategy. Here at HubSpot Academy, we tend to recommend a more balanced approach by combining social media, search engine optimization, email marketing, and content marketing in a holistic inbound strategy. It all comes down to knowing your buyer persona and aligning your strategy with their behaviors. One real-time way to stay on top of your buyer persona and their consumer behavior is through social monitoring. There is a difference between social listening and social monitoring. These two activities may seem similar at first glance, and in many cases, they both involve the same tactics. Where they differ is in your objective. You can use social listening to centralize conversations about your brand so that you can join them. Social listening may be used by sales reps, social media managers, and even executives in your company. On the other hand, you can use social monitoring to actively look for mentions and conversations that pertain to your brand, your products, your hashtags, your employees, your competitors, and your customers. Social monitoring aims to measure more broadly what the market is saying, not just about you, but about the problem your company solves and the topics your customers care about. For example, you might use Google Alerts to get email notifications when an article is published about a topic that your buyer persona cares about. You might use TweetDeck to monitor phrases, brands, and people that your buyer persona cares about on Twitter. Perhaps it's as simple as bookmarking a Facebook search in your browser and checking it regularly.
Social monitoring is a really important part of monitoring your brand's reputation because your customers are on social media. You want to be listening to them there and fielding any questions that they may have, responding to complaints, and understand their perspective or point of view on the product or service that you're delivering to them. If you're responsive, timely, and helpful, that will then reflect positively on your business.
No matter how you choose to do social monitoring, there are some clear benefits to being in the know about the things your buyer persona cares about. First of all, it puts you and your target buyer persona in the audience together. Here's what I mean. In a lot of ways, marketing is a two-way communication channel. You communicate with your customer about you, and they communicate with you about them. And the other party listens. Social monitoring allows you to listen to a third party, other people and brands talking about the things you and your customers care about. It's no longer you and your audience talking about each other to each other. It's you and your audience talking to each other about a third subject or party. In doing so, you're saying, hey, we both care about this. Let's learn about it together. Talk about humanizing. Remember to be part of the conversation. You don't necessarily have to be the subject of it. There are some important dimensions to measure at this higher macro level. For instance, measure your brand reputation. In social monitoring, we're not responding to social media posts like we would in our social listening activities. Monitoring brand sentiment combines all of those individual messages into an overall reputation metric along a spectrum of negative to positive. For example, HubSpot Academy has an extremely positive sentiment on social media, a sentiment we share back. We love our fans. So when something goes wrong in the product or with a marketing campaign, which can happen, and we see that sentiment drop, we know that we have some work to do to get that sentiment back up. Be on the lookout for brand damaging conversations and customer unrest. Social customer service is the new normal for organizations. 56% of consumers will unfollow a brand if they deliver poor customer service on social media, and 40% of customers expect a response within 1 hour after posting a complaint in social media. If people have questions about your product or service, make sure your support team is ready to respond in a helpful way. You might even keep a customer from churning if you work in a subscription-based business. These conversations on social media can also inform your product or service. Are people unhappy with a particular feature, or maybe a recent change to your service offering? Are they excited about a particular feature they're trying for the first time? Use this market intelligence to guide other teams in your organization. Use social media monitoring to track links to your website on social media, engagement from campaigns, and check on the sentiment and performance of your marketing campaigns. By doing this, you'll learn whether your campaign content is resonating with your audience. To make this easier to track, consider using a hashtag for your marketing. This way, you'll have an easy way to track the conversations, and your audience will know where to find the conversation as well. Tracking links, created by appending UTM parameters to any links back to your website, can help you monitor exactly where traffic came from. In this example, we append a source, medium, and campaign, so we know exactly where traffic to academy.hubspot.com came from in our website analytics. Let's talk about how social monitoring can boost your recruiting efforts. The most important asset in your organization isn't the website, and it's not the building your office is in, or even the product or service you sell. It's the people who bring all those things together into a growing business. Recruiting, therefore, may be the single most important activity your organization performs on a regular basis, and monitoring social media can help you recruit more diverse, talented, and remarkable employees for your team. Your HR recruiting team can also use social monitoring to apply an inbound marketing approach to their recruiting efforts. Just like the buyer persona you've identified to be a potential best fit customer for your product or service, create a job seeker persona that is a potential best fit employee for a particular job opening. And in the same way a marketer would listen to and monitor the opinions of a buyer persona, do the same with your job seeker persona. If potential candidates are active on social media, they're giving you a way to understand them better, learn what they value in an organization, and fine-tune your job descriptions, interviews, and career page to suit their priorities. Remember, social media monitoring helps to inspire and inform your content, your brand, and can even extend to your product or recruiting strategies. Listening to and monitoring your competition is likely the number one, most obvious way to use your newly gained social media monitoring powers. In competitive markets, after all, it's an absolute imperative. Think about candidates running in an election. Every word said by or about the opponent is an opportunity to strike, to differentiate, to tell the world that we can do it better. But is it really inbound? It depends on what you do with that information. Inbound is a human, holistic, and helpful approach to doing business. Be careful that you don't become so obsessive watching the competition that it might over-influence your strategy. Inbound is about being customer-centric, not competitor-centric. It's good to know what your competitors are doing so you can better position yourself, but do it to help your customers. Now, with that out of the way, let's go over why you might monitor your competition as part of your social media monitoring activities. Well, for one, you and your competitors are innately participating in the same industry. When rising tides lift all boats, understanding those tides is pretty important to guiding your company's strategy. Your competitors might be more or less susceptible to a particular variable that influences them. Monitoring your competitors can help you get ahead of industry-wide changes. For example, as of 2018, companies who store data about European Union citizens needed to spend a ton of energy orchestrating their data processes and technology to support the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR requirements. A number of US businesses thought about how this regulation impacted companies in the EU and asked, if that were to happen here in the US with our customers, what would we need to do? What are those companies doing to prepare themselves? And where are they feeling the most pain? What can we learn from them? Those companies began to put new systems in place. And when the state of California implemented a new privacy law, those businesses were already set for success and positioned way ahead of their US-based competition. When monitoring your competitors, take note of their wins, losses, reputation, differentiations, marketing tactics, relationships, alliances, and even their brand voice. These characteristics and how they change over time can be used to inform your own decisions. You want to use the information as part of a holistic marketing intelligence strategy. Let's say a competitor had some kind of very public blunder. Ask yourself, if that catastrophe happened to you, wouldn't you feel like they took a cheap shot? Is this really the opportunity to go in for the kill? Is the oversight of a few of your competitors' employees really going to help differentiate your offering? In this case, the best thing to do is to simply listen to the social posts about the incident and creatively and helpfully contribute to that conversation. Don't take the opportunity to make a hard sales pitch to their customers. Just make sure those people feel as though they're being heard, especially if your competitor isn't listening. What you can do, however, is what Aviation Gin did. The exercise equipment company Peloton aired an ad during the 2019 holiday season that featured a woman who viewers saw as less enthusiastic about receiving a bike than Peloton intended. Aviation Gin, a company owned by actor Ryan Reynolds, saw that the internet was abuzz about Peloton's blender. Rather than bashing Peloton directly, Aviation Gin hired the actress in the Peloton ad and created a sequel of sorts, showcasing the woman in the ad's next steps after a year of owning the bike. They never once mentioned Peloton. It was internet gold, and the video was a trending topic for days after Aviation Gin shared it on their social channels. In the first 2 months after the Aviation Gin ad appeared in social media, the YouTube video had over 6 million views.
For a general social media monitoring business strategy, in terms of watching your competitors, it's a great way to identify what moves they might be making and where they may be going. For example, if your competitor starts to create social media posts around the topic of automation, whereas they previously have not spoken about that, that could be a key indicator that maybe they're going to launch a new product with a key automation functionality, or add automation to a current product. You might want to go back to their website and check out if they've made any updates there, and prepare for that.
Monitoring the competition will help your business grow and improve, and hopefully sidestep some of the pitfalls that others have already experienced. Let's talk about content strategy for social media. Social media is nothing without the content that makes it interesting for its users. Content truly is the backbone for all of the other activities that make up your social media plan. And having great content can make all the difference when it comes to having the best reach and engagement for your brand, which helps you build more loyalty and drive more sales.
Marketers now have less than 3 seconds to grab attention. And the reason is because we are constantly scrolling through content. And so consumers are making decisions in a matter of seconds. Whether or not they want to stay with a piece of content and engage or continue to scroll and move on to the next piece of content. So it's our job as social media marketers to try to engage them and grab their attention so that we go from this to thumb stopping.
If you've been marketing for a while, chances are you have a content strategy in place already. It usually includes things like your email newsletter, blog posts, your website, and downloadable content like ebooks. Social content is different. It usually serves as the vehicle to get people to those longer pieces of content or to provide smaller, digestible bits of information that help expose your brand and your values to customers and to prospects. The biggest difference between social content and traditional forms of content is that social content can be read and watched in the places and times that people choose. There are 3 main reasons why people use social media. They want to be informed, entertained, and connected. Social media helps people feel informed by helping them learn new things, stay up to date on topics that matter to them, and discover new ideas and trends. And although they are concerned about the accuracy of news found online, 2/3 of Americans get their news from social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and others. Social media helps people feel entertained by helping them find and keep up with entertainers, shows, and performances, and share and consume entertaining articles and videos. It's no wonder there's such an emphasis on video content and social. Entertainment and video are key to keeping users engaged. Social media content helps people feel connected by removing many of the typical barriers of communication and allowing people to contact anyone in their personal and professional networks whenever and from wherever. Social media helps people share, comment, and take part in a global conversation that goes beyond just the people they're friends with. It's up to you to determine which type of interaction your audience is looking for and how you'll provide it to them through the content you create.
At HubSpot Academy, we talk a lot about content and about finding ways to give value to your audience on an ongoing basis through meaningful content. I'm sure you've heard the phrase that content is king. But in the world of social media, there are really 2 main things that matter: the content and how individuals on the network interact with that content. There are a number of different types of content specific to social media, many of which can be used on the variety of channels. Let's break it down. Text used to be the mainstay of social media. Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn were pretty text-heavy channels, but in recent years, they've shifted to becoming much more visual. In fact, Cisco reports that globally, consumer internet video traffic will make up to 82% of consumer internet traffic by 2022, up from 73% in 2017. Think about that for a second and think about how much video you're doing already. Visual images include photos, infographics, animated GIFs, and illustrations. These days, you really only need a smartphone to take great photos. The possibilities are endless. Product shots, office and team highlights, conference selfies, customer spotlights, and more. You can share more than a single photo in many cases. For example, on Facebook and Instagram, you can create galleries and use photo carousels. Twitter and LinkedIn also allows for multiple photo uploads per post. Animated GIFs can take you one step beyond standard images. They can also help you demonstrate complex concepts quickly and easily, as in this example from SAP, in which they explain how AI will change the world.
The upside of GIFs is that they're visual content, they're highly shareable and searchable. NASA actually uses GIFs on their website to show weather patterns, so there's definitely a time and a place for GIFs. But if your users aren't using GIFs, and if you're using GIFs just to get a click-through rate, that's probably not the right reason to be using them. So be really intentional about using GIFs to communicate a message and tell a story.
You can make animated GIFs in Photoshop or online at a variety of sites. Giphy.com is the most popular. Video is the next big content bucket to consider. Did you know that marketers who use video grow revenue 49% faster than non-video users, or that 59% of executives agree that if both text and video are available on the same topic, they're more likely to choose video.
There is no better way to reach your customers, whether you have a service or a product, than video. You can speak to them in so many different ways. You can speak them directly to camera like we're doing right now. You can educate them. You can entertain them. You can tell them stories. You can convey emotions like no other medium. Video is the only way to go.
Video can be used on every single social media site that I've mentioned. In short, you shouldn't ignore it. Live video is also becoming more common, and you can broadcast instantly from Instagram, Facebook, Periscope, which is owned by Twitter, YouTube, and a variety of channels such as Livestream. Video is not always cheap or easy to create, but you would be surprised at how often it is. Consumers appreciate brands being authentic on video, and sometimes that's easier with a smartphone than it is with an entire studio.
Live video is really, really important. And because we are doing businesses with other human beings, and live video really showcase the personality of a brand. And the best part of live video is live video gives our audiences lots of agency to co-create content with a brand. And the more time our consumers are spending with our brands, the more likely they are going to do the marketing for us. So you really want to leverage live streaming to figure out a way to engage our audience, to give their voice, to share their stories, to even let them influence what we are doing at our companies or organizations.
Short form video is popular these days with sites like TikTok and the Twitter-owned clone of the once popular Vine app called Byte. These sites allow for very short videos of 6 to 15 seconds. These videos tend to be entertaining, casual, full of lip sync videos, and funny stunts. That brings us to the next type of content, stories. In 2017, we saw the rise of stories, which is a type of content that got its start from Snapchat and that Facebook copied for both its own Facebook platform and for Instagram. Essentially, stories are quick bites of content, both video and photo, often with fun filters and stickers that disappear after 24 hours. They're less posed, more entertaining, more casual, and tend to be more conversational than any other types of content found on those channels. And guess what? Viewers love them. 500 million people a day are viewing stories on Facebook and Messenger, and 500 million more are viewing stories on Instagram. Plus, stories are a great way to reach more audience if you don't have a lot of followers. A study by Social Insider found that brands with less than 10,000 Instagram followers succeed at reaching more than 9% of their followers with stories. Stories give brands the chance to share fast content that is often more economical to produce and delivers incredible brand awareness. When users view your story, they can choose to swipe up or down to see more, which can then take them to an offer or your website. So it's a great way to drive traffic. Polls are also a fantastic way to drive engagement through Instagram stories. Now, let's go over some other types of content that have the potential to help your business jump ahead of the pack. First, there are quizzes, surveys, and polls. You can engage your audience directly in Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with polls. Check out this example from Evernote. This helps you build brand awareness and, more importantly, affinity. Plus, along the way, you'll receive some valuable insights into your audience that can help you boost other marketing and product efforts. B2C companies in particular have embraced real-time marketing. Real-time marketing is developing content on the fly for local, national, or global events happening online or offline. Doing so helps your brand be a part of larger consumer conversations, boosting both brand recognition and engagement. You'll sometimes also hear real-time marketing referred to as newsjacking, a term coined by marketing expert David Meerman Scott. Doing this kind of marketing requires a hyper-focus on a specific event using social listening. You'll also need to be able to generate content quickly, like Oreo and their marketing agency did for the Super Bowl in 2013 when the lights in the stadium went out. Or when HBO accidentally left a Starbucks cup in its popular Game of Thrones show, and Starbucks tweeted a witty response. In some cases, you can anticipate the content you need ahead of time and insert your voice into the conversation, such as sporting events, news, television shows, holidays, or fun designated days such as National Friendship Day. This brings us the two types of content that you actually don't generate yourself: influencer content and user-generated content. We love celebrities and give them enormous power to sway our opinions. And when they share content, people listen. Influencers are individuals that have huge, highly influential audiences. These influencers may have a global or national audience, such as a movie star or celebrity. However, social influencers could be individuals who began as bloggers or content creators in a certain field or on a certain platform and built an audience around their amazing ideas and visual imagery to amass a huge following. More and more, brands are finding that these types of content producers are more advantageous to work with than a celebrity, both from a cost and reach perspective. There are a number of influencer companies that will help you book individuals to develop or share your material. You can also build relationships with budding influencers who are creating amazing content and can help you stand out among the crowd. And finally, there's the holy grail of social content, user-generated content, or UGC. What is it, and why is it so important? UGC is content such as blog posts, tweets, posts, videos, images, or reviews developed by a fan of your company or products and shared on a social channel. It could be a video unboxing a product, a photo of a fan interacting with your company's swag, or designing other kinds of content to show their adoration for your products or the work you do. It's the best kind of social content for a reason. Stackla found that 79% of people say UGC highly impacts their purchasing decisions. They also determined consumers find UGC 9.8 times more impactful than influencer content when making a purchasing decision. That means user-generated content might be more fruitful than shelling out thousands or millions to work with an influencer. Here's a great example of UGC developed by the team at Innerwear in Mexico, sharing their excitement of completing a certification. We loved this photo and the enthusiasm of this team, but this photo does more than just make us feel good. It shows others that these individuals appreciate and are excited about learning with HubSpot Academy. It's a strong endorsement for our brand, one that potentially carries far more weight than any advertisement we could devise on our own. You can influence the creation of user-generated content by offering rewards, contests, or giveaways. For example, a photo or design contest, or create a quiz and have people share their results. And finally, you can get creative with hashtags too, like how Whole Foods encourages shoppers to share pictures of their carts with the hashtag Whole Foods Haul. Hashtags are helpful for search, but they also enable the curation of specific types of content. You can create a branded hashtag to track a company effort or specific campaigns. If you never created a hashtag before, it's simple, and you don't need any tools to create one. Simply put the # before the word or phrase. Don't use any punctuation, including spaces between words. For example, the HubSpot HR team uses the hashtag HubSpotLife to showcase our fun culture.
One of the great things about living today is basically all the barriers of entry to create great content have somewhat been eliminated. With Premiere Rush on your phone, you can edit a whole video and post it on social. One of Refinery's top performing assets was an intern wrote an inspirational quote on a Post-it note and started taking photos on her phone with it in front of iconic landmarks in New York. So today, everyone really is a content creator, and the audience really appreciates the imperfections. So you no longer have to think everything has to be perfect. Also, social media, in a lot of ways, it's so ephemeral that I always tell my team progress over perfection. Just do something, put it out there, learn from it, and we can get it perfect in the future. But we'll know more by actually doing than just by thinking of doing.
As things continue to shift and change in the world of social media, there's bound to be new forms of emerging content. Don't be afraid to experiment with content types and different platforms, and also with the best times to share that content. There are a million studies that point to certain times being better for different types of content than others. The challenge with all those studies, however, is that the algorithms for social channels change regularly. What works well one week might not the next. A better bet is to dive deep into your social analytics to determine what content is really resonating and to do A/B testing to fine-tune your process. Now you know the basics to developing meaningful content for your social media audiences. Let's talk about developing your strategic content plan for social media. Adopting every social channel and publishing whatever content you feel like won't deliver business results. It's when you approach your social media content strategically that you'll see the most success. Your success on social media depends on creating a sensible strategy for your content, one that fits well with your resources and your goals. This is especially important if you do not have a full-time team of social media experts at your disposal, because with fewer resources, you'll need to be even more strategic with what you publish and on which channels. So, how do you develop a strong content strategy for social media that will bring success to your business? Let's go through a simple step-by-step process for developing a strategic content plan. The first step is to figure out what has worked well for you in the past. Which social media channels has your target audience engaged with the most? What types of content have performed best for views, click-throughs, and comments? Conduct a content audit of your social media channels to understand what your audience responds to best. In your content audit, look at social networks, content types, and which social campaigns are seeing a return on investment. To gather your data, you can either use a social analytics tool, like the ones we've listed here, which can aggregate all that data, definitely the easiest option, or you can manually pull the data from each channel analytics tabs and compile it yourself.
Brands should always be thinking about who their target market is, where they live, and how they're consuming that content. So whether you're a B2B marketer or a B2C marketer, think about what platform is best for you. Secondly, how are they consuming that content? Are they consuming it on the go? Are they consuming it while they're leaning forward, taking a break from work? Or are they consuming it when they're laying back at the end of the day and they're consuming longer form content?
To do your audit, use a spreadsheet to record how your content has performed so far, with a tab for each individual social media channel. Once you have a spreadsheet set up, go into each channel tab and record things like engagement metrics, publishing metrics, audience demographics, referral traffic, and any metrics that are channel specific, like retweets on Twitter. Make sure you measure not just the raw numbers, but also percentage change from the previous month or year. To get an even better picture of what types of content perform well, look through and identify the top performing posts for each channel. You can take this a step further by categorizing these top posts by post type: educational, informational posts, video posts, live video posts, image and GIF posts, promotional posts, and entertainment posts. That's right, really dig in at the post level to figure out which types of content you should add to your plan for each social channel. If your video posts get the most shares on Facebook, for example, then you really want to experiment with publishing more video posts. If your promotional posts get more clicks and shares on LinkedIn than they do on other social channels, then you might want to think about scaling them back everywhere else but LinkedIn. If your competitors are seeing success with live video and you haven't really tried live video yet, then you might want to test it out on different channels to see how your audience responds. Don't be afraid to play.
So our bookstore has 3 different social media platforms that we're on: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we try to keep the same brand identity across all of those. We are a bookstore. We're about books. We're about customers. We're about readers and authors. But we do have different audiences, and so we try to cater to that. Our Facebook is mostly concentrated on letting people know our upcoming events. That's where we can put the most information. You don't really have a word limit. It's not as visual though. So for Instagram, we try to post, beautiful images of the books. You don't want to judge a book by the cover, but sometimes we do. It is part of marketing. So that's a really good place for us to kind of, show off our store and show off the different authors and customers who are coming through. And for Twitter, it's a pretty quick bite. We want to let people know upcoming events, if something is happening off the cuff that we weren't expecting, or to maybe respond to a publisher or to an author to kind of get that interaction and keep our names out there. So we do sort of try and keep a consistent image and at least a consistent identity across all of those. But we do understand that they take more time if you're doing a big visual presentation, whereas Twitter, it's easy, obviously, to just hop on and say, hey, this author's just dropped by the store to sign books, come and grab a copy.
Knowing which types of content performs well on each channel will be key to understanding what you should be doing more of and less of. If you're missing any of these post types in your strategy, like live video, for example, then think about how you can experiment with it in the future.
I love video, and the video makes a huge difference in our social media marketing effort. I think the best way to connect with others is face-to-face communication. Nothing can replace face-to-face. The second best way is video. Video really shows our personality in the social media, in the marketing space. We all prefer to do business with human beings. We don't just connect with the logo, we connect with others as humans. So video is a great way to humanize who we are, to humanize our brand, to humanize our message. And that human connection and level up the emotion, and many of our purchase decisions are emotional decisions. So really use video to humanize what you do.
All right, now that you've done a full audit of your social content and channels, I want you to think carefully about your goals and your buyer personas. Start with your goals. What do you hope to get out of your social media efforts? Are you trying to grow your audience? Increase traffic to your blog or website? If you find that you don't have any specific goals yet for social, then the audit you perform will help you establish a benchmark for certain metrics that you can then develop new goals and work toward them. Now, who are your buyer personas? How are they using each social network? What are they talking about? What are they interested in learning? Are you already engaging with them in ways that resonate with them? If you don't have business goals and buyer personas in mind as you're developing content and social campaigns, then you probably aren't using social as efficiently as you could be. So you're creating your plan to achieve those goals and connect with those buyer personas. Next, do research on how your competitors are using social media. How many followers do they have compared to you on each channel? How is their content performing? From the metrics you can see at least. Which types of content are performing best for them? How are they engaging with their followers? By looking at your competition, you get a sense of how you stack up and where you might have gaps that you'll need to close in your own strategy. Building a sensible content strategy takes a lot of research and analysis of not only your social content, but also your competitors' content. Once you've done this research and analysis, you can start to piece together a plan. Next, consider your resources. Who's writing and designing content for social media right now? Do you have a team dedicated to social media who can create great copy, images, GIFs, and videos? Or are your resources kind of limited and you'll have to rely on help from folks within your organization or a third-party agency? Who's going to actually press publish on these posts?
At Refinery, when we're developing content, we try to develop more content that's evergreen and has a long shelf life. We still address the news, but typically not in types of content that would require a lot of resources. Instagram stories or a feed asset that's just text on screen is a really good place to lean into something that's super trending because it's so quickly to just pull out and make on your phone. But content that requires like a host and a studio and multiple cameras, we try to keep that content more in the evergreen space so it has a long shelf life, even if it's something that is topical like Thanksgiving content or spring break content. We know we'll be able to use it every year if we invest resources into it to make it high production value.
Think about the size of your team. Your content plan will look different if you're a 1 or 2 person social media team than if you have a team of 5 or more people. If you feel like you're strapped for resources, then you might want to prioritize your top social channels over others. Think back to your content audit and identify which channels have performed the best for you in the past. And think about prioritizing those channels. Finally, always be testing your content. No matter how big or small your team is, testing and playing around with different messaging and content types is the only way to learn what really resonates with your audience. Make sure experimentation is ingrained in your strategic plan.
Some interesting things that brands can do to stay nimble are to experiment when new platforms come out. Brands like ESPN and the NBA and even the Washington Post are experimenting on new platforms like LinkedIn. I also think using a multi-channel approach can be very beneficial for helping brands to learn what works. Casper is actually doing this. Casper mattresses. They've developed a Casper sleep channel using Spotify and YouTube and IGTV. So continuing to test and learn is crucial to brands staying nimble in this changing environment.
Now, Once you have a really good idea of which social channels you want to prioritize and which types of content you want to post on each channel, it's time to build out a content calendar that you can use to prep content for upcoming weeks and months. And when you actually go to create your content, make sure you're following your brand guidelines for content creation if you have them. And finally, don't be afraid to get creative with your social media content. One of the biggest challenges people face in social media today is that they have trouble being heard above all the noise. And creativity can help you stand out. Denny's, a popular American restaurant chain, is a great example of a brand that could have blended in on social media, but chose to stand out as a part of their social strategy. There are a lot of brands out there like Denny's that have figured out how to stand out and get creative in a way that really resonates with their audience. Building a social media strategy for each channel takes a lot of time, research, and careful planning. But the more that you can base your content plan on what's worked in the past, on your specific business goals and buyer personas, on competitive research, and on continual experimentation, the more your social media efforts will pay off.
Let's talk about tone and voice in your social media content. Here's the honest truth. Humanizing your brand is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. Humanizing your brand is a competitive edge in a highly competitive online world. People like to buy from people. They like making connections, and they like to invest their time and money in people they can relate to. That's why tone and voice in your messaging are so important. Having a distinct tone and voice that reflects your values can help you connect with your audience in ways that business jargon simply can't. It also sets you apart from other businesses and gets your content seen, clicked on, and engaged with. In other words, tone and voice turn your business into a brand. So let's back up for a second. What exactly are tone and voice? They aren't quite the same thing. Voice means the distinct and steady personality or style of your brand. For example, HubSpot Academy's voice can be described as helpful, knowledgeable, empathetic, and friendly. And that's always true, no matter what channel we're using to communicate or what situation we're communicating about. To get this voice across in social media, we create content that comes off like we're a knowledgeable and supportive friend. On this slide, you can see an example of the HubSpot Academy voice. We use positive and inclusive language that makes our followers feel comfortable and welcome, and we use clear language that reflects how human beings actually talk to one another. Essentially, HubSpot Academy creates content presenting us as a helpful, supportive friend. Tone, on the other hand, is a subset of voice. It refers to the moods and attitudes of specific content pieces, which can change depending on the channel, the situation, and the audience. So while HubSpot Academy's voice is steady no matter what, our tone can differ from post to post. Figuring out what the right tone is for a given post will vary depending on your audience, your message, and its purpose. A social media post letting your followers know that your website is down will use a different tone than one announcing an exciting new product, for example. But the voice of these posts should remain consistent no matter what. If your brand doesn't have an established voice and tone already, how do you develop them? Here are a few tips. When developing your business's voice, you'll want to think about your brand personality. If your business was a person, how would they talk? Would they be open, witty, friendly, authoritative, passionate, energetic, edgy? There are a lot of different descriptions you can choose from, such as these examples of voice. Choose a handful of personality words that describe your business best and reflect its values, and record them in a place where others writing marketing messaging can find them easily. When developing your business's tone, context is key. For social media in particular, think about the different scenarios that might come up and what tone you'll use to respond to them. See these examples of JetBlue's tone. What tone will you use when people compliment you? What tone will you use when you were responding to customer complaints?
Social media for a B2B company versus a B2C company is different in my view, because I think in a B2B, you don't have the opportunity to be as playful, to be as casual, to be as witty. Doesn't mean that you can't sometimes interject that into your post, but as a B2B company, we need to be a little bit more formal, but still yet approachable. We need to be able to convey our expertise within the healthcare industry, within the data analytics space. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that the audience engages, feels like they're engaging in what we're saying. And because of that, I feel like we need to be a little bit more serious.
When you consider the tone of a social media post, ask yourself these questions. What is the purpose of this content? Who am I writing to? How do they feel? What do they want to understand? Therefore, what kind of tone should I use? Put yourself in your audience's shoes and think about what their background, goal, and current mood might be when coming across the post. By using an established, consistent voice and tone throughout all your communications, including social media, you'll build trust with your customers because you'll feel familiar, reliable, and human.